Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menasce. On today's show, we're talking about housing affordability. Governments across the U.S. and Canada are starting to become creative when it comes to addressing the issue of affordability. Rather than a straight cash handout, different schemes are aimed at assisting financing. California, Utah, and Idaho are three states that have recently implemented programs aimed at improving housing affordability. California's newest program is called the Dream for All Shared Appreciation Program. The program is a down payment assistance program for first-time homebuyers, and it provides funding for up to 20% of the home sales price. It's to be used in conjunction with the Dream for All conventional first mortgage, and it can be used for down payment and or closing costs. The financing assistance is equivalent to a 0% down payment loan, or essentially 100% financing. But the terms of the secondary financing are a hybrid between a loan and equity. As the program name implies, you will need to repay the original down payment of the loan plus a share of the appreciation of the value of the home. So for example, if you receive a 20% down payment towards your home, the State Housing Authority will collect 20% of the increased value when you sell or transfer or refinance the property. As with most down payment assistance programs, you need to meet the minimum credit requirements, and you've got to stay within the county income limit. You also need to complete a homebuyer education course before closing. This is not the first loan assistance program in California, but up until now, the loan assistance programs have offered a 3% assistance. This is the first one that I've seen to offer anywhere near the full 20% down payment. The housing market in Utah has created a lot of challenges for people over the last few years with rising home prices, very limited inventory, and rising interest rates. A new bill called SB 240, sponsored by Senate President Stuart Adams, was developed to ease the financial burden for first-time homebuyers trying to break into the housing market. The bill, which passed with a vote of 28-1 in the Senate and 60-8 in the House, will allocate $50 million in one-time funding to offer assistance to those buying a first-time house. The initial fund is projected to help about 2,500 households. The program is going to allow Utah homeowners to borrow up to $20,000 towards the down payment, closing costs, or an interest rate buy-down, or a mixture of the three. Qualifying homes have to be new construction with a purchase price of $450,000 or less. Single-family homes, townhouses, and condos are all acceptable as part of the program. The interest-free loan will place a lien on the property, and it'll need to be repaid when the loan is refinanced or the house is sold. In both California and Utah, we're seeing builders respond positively to these new programs, specifically designing products that are targeting first-time buyers. This first-time buyer segment is one area that's perennially been the focal point of housing affordability advocates. The state of Idaho took a slightly different approach. They announced that they're recently bringing about 1,000 units of affordable rental housing to the market spread across 9 projects. This Idaho program is unique in that it offers a funding grant directly to developers who build affordable housing. It's defined as those having household incomes below 80% of the area median income. This is the first round of funds, and roughly $28 million will be distributed to provide gap financing to private developers. It comes to a little over $22,300 per unit. The funding is considered gap funding aimed at taking a project from being unprofitable to at least marginally profitable. Governments are starting to realize it's become virtually impossible in many markets to create housing that would actually be affordable. All 3 of these states have taken dramatically different approaches to addressing affordability. 2 of the programs put funds in the hands of homeowners for home ownership, and 1 puts the additional funds in the hands of developers to develop affordable rental housing. The problem is that these programs are small in scale, and it's barely going to make a dent in the need. When the country has a need for houses in the millions, housing in the thousands simply doesn't move the needle. For example, Idaho has about 2 million people, and the program will add 1,000 units to the entire state. That's an impact of 0.1% on the housing stock if you assume that an average household is 2 people. There's several major factors that impact housing affordability. Supply and demand is near top of the list, but that affects resale prices more than the cost of new construction. New construction is affected by the price of land, hard construction cost, and certainly inflation's found its way into the construction industry. Third is the cost of infrastructure and municipal impact fees. And finally, the cost of financing, and most importantly, the availability of financing. Most of these programs are only taking aim at one of these 4 variables. And the problem is that the true cost is a combination of all of these variables. Many of these programs have an impact of less than 5% on the cost of housing. Those families struggling with finding affordable housing have much more than a 5% problem. It's a much bigger gap. At least governments get to claim that they did something. The California program is by far the most aggressive, offering 20% down. But even with the 20% down payment, the cost of capital is such that today's mortgage interest rates have risen much faster than the cost of housing. You might not live in one of these three states, but have a look at your local state government or local municipal government to see what programs they have underway. As you think about that, have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.